Good morning, everyone. I'm going to now call the July 18, 2023 San Diego County Board of Supervisors regular meeting to order. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. These are communities in the San Diego region that face unjust conditions and circumstances related to the environment in which they live. The tribal nations of the San Diego region are an example of one community that has historically faced such injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from folk cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, the Guiño, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. We aspire to learn from indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. As a reminder, according to the board rules and procedures, audience members should not whistle, clap, stomp, feed, or anything that disrupts the proceedings. With that, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that Supervisor Anderson is participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be handled by a roll call vote. With that, I will now call the roll. Supervisor Anderson.
Here.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Here.
Chairwoman Vargas.
Thank you. We will now hear the statement of remote participation from Supervisor Anderson.
Thank you. The first item will be for Supervisor Anderson to make a statement about participating remotely and state whether anyone over the age of 18 is in the room with him, as well as the relationship to the supervisor.
I will be participating in the board meeting remotely today per the provisions of Government Code 5495-3 due to just cause for the following reasons: the need to provide child care or caregiving needed of a child, parent, grandparent, grandchild, sibling, spouse, or domestic partner, and there's nobody in the room with me, period. My mic was on, I hope.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. I was just waiting for the phone to stop ringing. All right, so we're good. We will now have Reverend Dale Saggs deliver the invocation. Following the invocation will be Chris Hieserman will deliver the Pledge of Allegiance. And please stand for the invocation and the pledge.
My name is Reverend Dale Suggs. My pronouns are he, him, his. I live on the land of the Kumeyaay peoples. I also enjoy the rights, privileges, and untold blessings of being a citizen of San Diego County. It's my honor to be here. I'm the pastor of Beloved Way Christian Community, director of Beloved Compassion Network, and I bring to you prayers. We are often known as the group who gathers prayers at mental health walks and other gatherings where the people who are most vulnerable in our community seek acceptance, love, and care. This particular gathering of prayers comes from the Pride Festival this past weekend. Let us invite us into a spirit of prayer. O God, our beloved, we are servant leaders entrusted with the care of the people, the institutions, and fiscal and natural resources of San Diego County. We have gathered here in these hallowed halls. Our weighty agenda is set before us. Challenge upon challenge upon challenge awaits our mindful and heartful consideration. But before we engage in our work this morning, we intentionally pause to ask for your companionship in the journey. We know that every decision we make, every step we take is an answer to an invitation to walk with you. And we know that we will need your persistence, passion, and power to walk the way of healing, wholeness, and peace amidst a hurting, fractured, and conflicted world. For the truth is, we live and find ourselves among a people who love power more than person. For the truth is, we live and find ourselves among a people who value wealth over welcome. For the truth is, we find ourselves among and living with a people well-equipped and well-trained with weapons to belittle, battle, and beat down our neighbors, but ill-equipped and ill-trained in the tools that might help us reach out a hand and lift up our neighbors in compassion. Forgive us, O God, our beloved, when we are tempted to choose these paths, and lead us in a better way. For the truth is also that you have shown us how loving others is the beloved way to healing. The truth is also that you have shown us how justice making is the beloved way to wholeness. The truth is also you have shown us how learning, teaching, and embodying compassion is the beloved way to peace. O God, you have given us equipment, original equipment, a core self deep within, filled with extravagant grace, radical inclusion, and relentless compassion, waiting to be released into the world. This compassionate core is part of us that is ever connected to the source of all things, from which flows an infinite and an inexhaustible river of compassion, capable of connecting us to our true selves and to one another. Help us, O God, our beloved, to recognize this original equipment, this innate potential and prowess for love, this compassionate core deep within us, and in fact, deep within all people. And even though this compassionate core may be covered by layers of pain, buried under levels of unfulfilled longings, entombed in vaults of ancient and aching wounds, and marked with epitaphs, naming gifts we may never get to share with the world. Still, it is there, in us, in every single person on this planet. It is what makes us human. It is what makes us yours. Help us, O God, our beloved, to ease the pain, embrace the longings, heal the wounds, and welcome the gifts of all those who have been trusted to our care. Help us, O God, our beloved, to listen and to speak and to discern and to decide and to act in ways that confirm our commitment to answer your invitation to make compassion our way of lives here in San Diego and beyond. For this is our prayer, O God, our beloved, and we know that you hear us and will help us, for you are the beloved one who from your compassionate core names us beloved as well, claims us as your children, and yes, despite ourselves, delights in each of us always. Amen.
We now welcome Mr. Heiserman.
Good morning. I'm Chris Heiserman. I'm the president of the Retired Employees of San Diego, or RESDEC. It's a privilege to be here to help open your meeting by leading the Pledge of Allegiance. So we're all standing, so if you could put your hand over your heart, face the flag, and join me. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We will now proceed with proclamation. Thank you. I'll be presenting the first proclamation honoring Disability Pride Month, and accepting the proclamation will be Kay Turpin and Brandon Butler. You want to come up here? And Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Come on up. So good to see you. Good morning. You can come up here. Good morning. I'm so proud to be here. How are you, Michelle? To recognize Disability Pride Month throughout San Diego County. Next week on July 26, our country will be celebrating the 33rd anniversary of the passage of the Americans with Disability Act, a powerful legislation that established a clear and comprehensive prohibition of discrimination on the basis of disability. Even though this federal legislation provides wide protections for people with disabilities, and we have made great strides in creating a more accessible community, there is still so much work to do. In San Diego County, it is estimated that over 300,000 individuals are living with some type of disability, and people with disabilities in our community are especially vulnerable due to the lack of accessible transportation, healthcare, and education. People with disabilities are more prone to heart disease, diabetes, and other illnesses, and 1 in 3 have an unmet healthcare need because of cost. And as a county, we are committed to creating a work environment that fosters an understanding, respect, and that accommodates for all individuals regardless of their abilities. With this in mind, and to honor the achievements, experiences, and struggles of people with disabilities, I am joined here today with the County of San Diego's Office of Ethics Compliance, the Committee for Persons with Disabilities, and the amazing Diverse Ability Employee Resource Group, ERG, to recognize Disability Pride Month. Through our Office of Ethics and Compliance, the Committee for Persons with Disabilities, and the amazing Diverse Ability Employee Resource Group, we are working together to build healthier and stronger communities for all of us with acceptance, compassion, and love. Therefore, be it proclaimed by myself and my colleagues on this 18th day of July of 2023 that we do hereby declare this month of July to be Disability Pride Month throughout San Diego County. I am so honored to provide this proclamation to Kay, Turpin, and Brandon Butler, and so thank you for accepting the proclamation.
I'm actually the chair.
Oh, Michelle. Well, I'm sorry, I suck. I should have remembered, so thank you so much for being here. You get to speak now.
So I'm Michelle Krug. I do want to thank the supervisors for this recognition, and Kate Turpin from our committee is going to read some prepared words. Thank you very much.
I'm going to give you the proclamation.
Okay.
All right. Hi, Kay Kelly Turpin. I represent District 2. Thank you, Chair Vargas, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, and the Board of Supervisors for this proclamation. As a member on the Board of Supervisors appointed committee for persons with disabilities, I am pleased to participate on the Make a Friends with ADA employee event with the Diverse Ability ERG Employee Resource Group. The Americans with Disabilities Act groundbreaking legislation and the anniversary of the signing is something to be recognized. The Committee for Persons with Disabilities is made up of resident volunteers throughout San Diego County. We meet monthly to hear from and provide input to departments across the county, such as the Sheriff's Department, the District Attorney, and the Office of Emergency Services. Our support staff lead, I have to recognize you, Todd, I'm sorry, with the Office of Ethics and Compliance should also be recognized. Though quiet in his demeanor, I have come to know Todd over the years, and he is a ferocious advocate for disability rights, and you're fortunate to have him on your team. Thank you for the recognition of Disability Pride Month. We have come a long way in the past few years. We are grateful for your support, and we are looking forward to your continued involvement. And I want to let you do all the photo ops.
Well, thank you, Chair Vargas and Board of Supervisors, for this proclamation. Along with Todd Hood, our ADA Title II coordinator, and myself, the director of the Office of Ethics and Compliance, it gives us great pleasure to represent all county partners serving all of the Accessibility Awareness Working Group and as the departmental ADA coordinators. We look forward to joining the Diverse Ability ERG Employer Resource Group, the Committee for Persons with Disabilities, and the Office of Equity and Racial Justice for the Make Friends with the ADA employee event and recognition of Disability Pride Month. Now, it's our goal to equip our employees so they are comfortable, confident, and competent when working with all folks in our community, whether the need is visible or invisible. With 10% of the population in San Diego County citing a disability in the latest census, we will work with county departments so they have the resources available throughout the communication and client service delivery process, from informing the public about services and programs and activities to inviting them to participate, involving everybody in our community. We thank you, and we look forward to working with you.
Tell you what's funny, so he whispered to you, smile, but he doesn't know you can't see you. So I told you because I know and I can see you.
Thank you.
So I'm so happy to see you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, the next proclamation will be given by myself and Vice Chair Lawson Remer, honoring the retired employees of San Diego County's Merit Scholarship. Accepting the proclamation will be Board President Chris Heiserman and Scholarship Chair Carlos Gonzalez. So I'm excited this morning, good to see you, to recognize this year recipients of the retired employees of San Diego County's Merit Scholarship. Annually, the retired employees of San Diego County will award 5 local students who are relatives of members of the RESDC with a scholarship to advance their education based on their high school GPAs. Even after long careers of public service, the over 6,500 members of the retired employees of San Diego will continue to do the work to support all San Diegan families. As a previous board member of the Southwestern College Board of Trustees, it makes me really proud. And as many of you know, I'm very passionate about supporting our students, particularly in higher education. And one of the biggest obstacles many of our students face in higher education is financing their education. So I'm thrilled that organizations like the RESDC really find opportunities and resources to make our students' goals and college achievable for that. So with that, let me go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, and then we're going to go ahead and proclaim the day.
Today, I'd like to acknowledge the retired employees of San Diego County Organization for their invaluable contributions, past, present, and future. This organization uplifts and supports our retired county employees, providing resources and valuable assistance to the many public servants who dedicate their lives to bettering our community. As supervisor and as the daughter of a former San Diego County employee, I personally have a great appreciation for the work that you do. And through the merit scholarships that are being announced here today, you are also creating a brighter future for the next generation of San Diegans. We also take the opportunity to celebrate the exceptional high school graduates, family members of county retirees who are being awarded this year's merit scholarships. May these scholarships provide an extra boost as you embark on your college journeys and help you lay the foundation for a promising future. Let us take a moment to appreciate the collective effort of our retired employees and the achievements of these remarkable graduates. Their contributions and accomplishments serve as a reminder of the positive impact individuals can make when they come together for a common goal. Do you want to present? Okay. And it is with that, I'm honored to read the proclamation, be it proclaimed by Chairwoman Nora Vargas and all members of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors on the 18th day of July, 2023. That we commend the retired employees of San Diego County for their outstanding service, leadership, and commitment to the citizens of San Diego County, and do hereby declare this day to be the Retired Employees of San Diego County Merit Scholarships Day throughout San Diego County.
Here, I'll help you.
Thank you. Again, Chris Heiserman, ResDec President. I want to thank the county for recognizing this program. It's actually one of the most satisfying things that we do as retired employees. We've done a lot of these. We highlight and profile the winners each year in our monthly newsletter, so all of our members get to see what great young people these are. The profiles are just amazing to read when you hear the backgrounds of these people, see what their aspirations are. We know that many of them are going to be future leaders, responsible citizens, and we also know that they will value public service because their parents and grandparents are former county employees.
Thank you.
Thank you. I take this opportunity to thank the Board of Supervisors for having us back on in chambers. We've been away for, 3 years? And we all know why. That was a pandemic. So we are extremely grateful that we're back. The recognition goes to the recipients of the scholarships, because definitely if they weren't around, we wouldn't have this time together here. So thank you to all scholarship recipients, their parents, their sponsors. Because of course, their sponsors at this stage in life, most of them happen to be grandparents, and grandparents they definitely are, so thank you. I'd like to bring up two more items actually. The membership of ResDec, the Retired Employees of San Diego County Association, As of the end of June the 30th, is up to 8,100 members. And that's out of a total of some 47,000 plus retired employees. So it's a pretty good percentage. And second item, most importantly, there is a combination of sources of scholarship fundings that are working here, and that is the San Diego Foundation, which holds a $250,000 endowment that was placed back in 2001 by a former county employee and his wife, that is Evelyn and I forget the man's first name, but their last, Theo, yeah, Evelyn and Theo Yekel, and they placed an endowment of $250,000, which generate returns that pay scholarships every year. And this year they awarded $1,500, and some of the kids present here today, that would be Denton and Ripley, they received the additional $1,500 from the San Diego Foundation. So we're extremely proud of that. Thank you again. And you will be leaving, going somewhere soon enough, but come back and see us when you're ready for the workplace. Yeah, the money is very important.
I think we're gonna. Thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations. Thank you.
All right. Can't wait to someday become a retired employee member. The next proclamation will be given by Vice Chair Lawson Reamer, honoring Ira Sharp. Accepting the proclamation will be Andrew Sharp.
Good morning. I'd like to take a moment to honor the memory of Ira Sharp, a beloved member of our community who recently passed away. I'm honored to be joined by Ira's family as we remember him today and recognize his many contributions to our county and our nation. On the west face of this building, our county motto reminds us of our powerful purpose. The noblest motive is the public good. We see this statement each day when the sun rises over our city. But it's only through the selfless, dedicated service of individuals like Ira Sharp that these words are truly brought to life. For Ira, this dedication began at a young age. He was elected student body president and fought against the injustices he saw around him, organizing sit-ins at segregated restaurants and leading demonstrations. In his wife, Roseanne, Ira found a partner with equal passion for social justice, and together they created a life dedicated to improving the world around them. After their grandson was born, and after the Parkland shooting, Ira and Roseanne co-founded Never Again California, an organization committed to preventing gun violence and creating safer communities through education, activism, and legislation. Ira worked tirelessly to bring elected officials and gun violence prevention groups together to create the Safe Storage California project in 2019. He was instrumental in helping common sense gun safety improvements, like the safe storage laws we have in San Diego County, come to pass. And thanks to his efforts, the requirement for school districts to send important gun safety information home to parents is now enshrined in state law. Ira also dedicated himself to serving our county employees by serving on the San Diego County Civil Service Commission. He uplifted small businesses in his community by serving on the Chairman's Roundtable, a San Diego nonprofit that provides pro bono mentoring to local businesses. Ira also played a leadership role in the Del Mar Foundation, several Del Mar City Council committees, and the Independent Citizens Oversight Committee, which provides accountability for school construction spending. Many of the friends who know Ira and work together in these endeavors are here today, a testament to the strength of the legacy he built in our community. And now it is up to us to honor that legacy and bring about the change he so fervently sought. May Ira's spirit continue to guide us, inspire us, and remind us of the incredible power we have to effect lasting change. Let his legacy serve as a beacon of hope as we remain steadfast in our pursuit of a world free from the grip of gun violence. It is my honor, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, to declare this 18th day of July, 2023, as Ira Sharp Day throughout San Diego County.
Thank you to the county, the supervisors, Vice Chair Lawson Raymer, and Chair Nora Vargas, and all the members. It means so much to our family that you've taken time out of your important work to remember my father. He loved being able to make a contribution to San Diego County. The integrity of the work meant so much to him, and the strength of your advocacy and the recognition that together we can make a difference when it comes to confronting injustice. And the spirit that we'll always remember and that we appreciate you recognizing today is the recognition that there is injustice in the world, but that most people are trying to do something about it, whether it's lifting themselves out of it or helping those who need help. And that work together is our inspiration as we go forward. It was my father's inspiration, and it's why we're all here today. And so thank you so much for taking time to remember that. And we wish you the best.
Thank you. The next proclamation will be given by Supervisor Desmond honoring the Remember Everett Foundation Water Safety Month. Accepting the proclamation will be Nicole Papandreou.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. This is good. Well, good morning, everyone. It is my sincere honor to welcome Nicole Papandreou from Valley Center and her two young daughters, along with our first responders, Fire Chief Joe Napier, Captain Joe Bazinski, and new Division Chief Jim Davidson, all with the Valley Center Fire District. And by the way, Chief Davidson, congratulations on your promotion here to Division Chief, and for child holding right now. So summer's here, and the weather's getting hotter, and because of that, people and families are heading to the pools and beaches for relief. and it is vital that we all practice water safety techniques, especially for children. Drowning is the #1 cause of deaths in children ages 1 to 4, and 69% of the drownings occur when a child is not expected to be around water, and it can occur in as fast as 6 seconds. Accidental drownings claim 10 victims in the United States every day. So Nicole created a nonprofit, Remembering Everett Foundation, on July 7th, 2019, after losing her precious 23-month-old son, Everett James, to drowning. The foundation promotes water safety practices and survival swim training for infants and toddlers. The training includes up to six to 8 week-long survival swim lesson program with a certified infant swimming rescue instructor. Nicole's team advocates for toddlers to know swim techniques before they even start crawling or walking. Survival Swim teaches children the vital techniques for self-rescue in the event of an accidental fall in, and they don't utilize floaties, which can create a false sense of security for both the children and for people watching them. National Drowning Prevention Day is coming this July 25th, and we support organizations who advocate for water safety and preventative drowning efforts, and our office has provided funds for free swim lessons to the YMC in Oceanside and to the Autism Society of San Diego to help lower the cost of swim lessons for people with autism. So I want to say thank you to Nicole for sharing your personal grief and experience, and for taking the initiative to teach drowning children prevention techniques that has been resulting in being able to save more children's lives and protect families from having to suffer the grieving the loss of a loved one. The San Diego County, we are committed to recognizing and honoring organizations that embody the noblest ideas of community, and the Remembering Everett Foundation is one such worthy organization. So now, therefore, be it proclaimed by myself and all the members of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors on this 18th day of July that we recognize Nicole for her tremendous advocacy, working on drowning prevention, safety, and in the community, and commend the Remembering Everett Foundation team for teaching toddlers the swim, float, swim survival techniques, and for promoting drowning preventions and techniques, and do hereby proclaim July to be Remembering Everett Foundation Water Safety Month throughout San Diego County. So we have a proclamation here. I'll hold up for you now. If you'd like to say a few words?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor Desmond, and to all the supervisors that are here today for proclaiming July as Remembering Everett Water Safety Month, which also coincides with National Water Safety Month. This July is also very meaningful for my family because it marks the 4th angelversary for my son Everett. I'm Nicole Papandrea, president of Remembering Everett Foundation. I'm here today with my 2 daughters, Riley, who is 4, and Evelyn, who is 2, along with Valley Center Fire. I'm here with Chief Joe Napier, Chief Jim Davidson, and Captain Joe Basinski, who have been immensely supportive of my family over the last 4 years and gracious enough to join me here today. Both of my daughters have been involved in survival swim from very young ages because I learned firsthand how important these life-saving skills are for a child. In 2019, my family moved to Valley Center to a new home with a pool. The pool safety fencing installation had begun but was not completed in time. Just 12 days into moving into our new home, I lost my beautiful blue-eyed boy to drowning just 1 month shy of what would have been his 2nd birthday. Everett had snuck out quietly through a broken lock on a glass sliding door, and I discovered him only a couple of minutes later. Everett did not receive a second chance, but I would like to change that for future generations. I found purpose by starting Remembering Everett Foundation to raise money for infants and toddlers to learn survival swim training and to raise awareness for water safety prevention. Infants learn the swim and float technique to be able to self-rescue and sustain air until help arrives in the event of an accidental fall-in. Toddlers learn the swim, float, swim method, and they also demonstrate this technique fully clothed which can add up to 30 pounds of water weight to their small bodies when submerged. Drowning is quick, it is silent, and it does not discriminate. It happens to the best of parents. We know from the numbers that this needs to be talked about, and it needs to start in our local neighborhoods, in our hospitals with pediatricians, and in our schools. Remembering Everett Foundation has saved the lives of countless children because they have graduated with these life-saving techniques. Everett James Papandrea was called home to do bigger and better things than he could have done in this life, and as his mother, I can see that he is. Every child deserves to know how to swim. Remembering Everett Foundation relies on tax-deductible donations from our community to keep this program alive. If you are interested in learning more about layers of prevention around your home, or if you can generously sponsor a child in our program, please reach out to me at swimfloatsurvive@gmail.com. We can also be found on Instagram at Remembering Everett and on Facebook at Remembering Everett Foundation. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Supervisor Desmond again for this proclamation to promote water safety. Together, we can stop drowning as a community and save countless more lives for children. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm going to ask Chief Napier to say a couple words as well. These are the first responders that have to go to these calls.
Good morning. My name is Joe Napier. I'm the fire chief for the Valley Center Fire Protection District. On behalf of the Valley Center Fire Protection District Board of Directors, I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors for recognizing July as Drowning Prevention Month and allowing Nicole to get up and tell her story. And when these tragedies happen in a community, it affects families, it affects community members, and it's long-standing. And as the minister said today, we need the tools to develop those reach-out compassion moments. And as the fire chief of the Department of the Quality of Life for Valley Center, it was a huge opportunity for us to come together and help support that family that went through that, and the neighbors and the first responders. Realizing that the Valley Center Fire Protection District responded, CAL FIRE County Fire responded, the Sheriff's Department responded, and Palma Reservation Tribal Fire Department responded, and all of us, Mercy Air responded, and all of us had a huge heart mark and a mental mark on our psyche for a long time as we were coming together with the family and supporting the family with meals and supporting the family in any way that we could. Our fire association really stepped up and did a wonderful job making sure that the family had all the support that they needed. And I commend the Board of Supervisors for providing the wherewithal to these prevention activities and to supporting the Valley Center Fire Protection District, because the road to resiliency to these things starts with Nicole being able to tell her story and first responders being able to be a part of that, because that's where healing takes place. And so again, I'd like to thank you and thank everybody here for remembering Everett and remembering a story that could be told over and over again for the countless children. 4,000 a year, the second leading cause of death for ages 5 to 15, other than vehicle accidents, and the number one leading cause of death for children 1 to 4. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I want to just take a minute to say thank you to our first responders. I know that they were, this Sunday, had to respond to a fire up in Valley, so we appreciate everything that you do every day, and so thank you, thank you, thank you.
Labor of love.
Yes, we appreciate you. We will now proceed with non-agenda public communications. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matters within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on today's agenda. The only action that the board may take is a referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. Reminder, according to Rule 4A, members of the public that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will get twice the allotted time for their comments, which is 4 minutes. And to better facilitate the meeting, we will have 5 speakers in person and 5 speakers via phone, and the rest of non-agenda public communication will be heard at the close of today's meeting. Clerk, can you call the speakers, please?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 23 requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 9 in person and 13 requesting to speak by phone. That's 22 requests to speak. For those that requested to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. Again, we'll be calling the first 5 speakers, and pursuant to the board's rules of procedure, all the remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. I'd like to invite forward Michael Brando, Mark, Mitz Lee, Sandra Smith, and Yusef Miller. If I've called your name, please come forward. I'll ask you to please state your name for the audio record.
Mark, see these YouTube videos. In a Senate Judiciary Committee meeting, Tim Ballard, famous for the recent Sound of Freedom film, states that southern border walls are crucial to stopping child sex trafficking. In this video titled on YouTube in a Sandag United Nations meeting, at 15 minutes 5 seconds, Nora Vargas states that she is committed to making sure they remove all barriers necessary in this region and create a better quality of life for our families on both sides of the border. We have a border crisis, and Nora's support for the North American Union is against our national sovereignty. At 55 minutes 40 seconds, they discussed changing our American governance and financing. And at 1 hour 24 minutes and 50 seconds, they discussed limiting and controlling our movement. The UN global agenda is enslaving Mexicans and Americans, and Jim Desmond and Joel Anderson have done nothing to stop it. Litigation support expert Rosa Corey talks about the Sandag treason in this YouTube video title. Biden sent $13.9 billion of your tax dollars to secure Ukraine's border. For perspective, $13.9 billion divided by 2,813 miles from San Diego, California to Key West, Florida, equals $4,941,000 per mile. Appy's Core 3D prints a 400 square foot concrete polymer home for $10,000. If they 3D printed a 10 by 40 foot house, same square footage, you could 3D print a solid row of 10 by 40 foot houses all the way across the entire southern border. There are about 20,000 border agents. That would be 7 border agents living in some of these houses per mile, 7 per mile, who could quickly and easily dispatch 63 more agents within a 5-mile radius. If these people, supervisors or the city council, wanted to help us, they could be doing these things. They're not. They're doing Agenda 21. Many sex trafficked children are Mexican girls, Nora, coming over our border.
Thank you. Thank you. Your time is up. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Mitz Lee, a 40-year resident of Mira Mesa. I stand before you to address the proposed reactivation of the epicenter in Mira Mesa. Allocation of $8 million of taxpayers' money on programs that have failed in the past is difficult for our community to justify. Additionally, it is concerning that $1 million of the budget is being expended to date on designing, planning, and programming development without a lease or property rights over the epicenter. Our community has awakened, and it is determined to have their voices heard. I am submitting to you now signed petition from over 800 residents, predominantly from Mira Mesa, Scripps Ranch, Rancho Penasquitos, and neighboring areas. This is a preliminary submission, and we will continue to collect support for this. The communities are simply asking about if you will reconsider to talk about and think about creating a performing arts and cultural center, which is not a new vision. It has been the vision of the community since 1996, is to create a theater-style auditorium that provides a dynamic space for people to enjoy arts, socialization, creativity, and cultural understanding. We also have launched online petitions that have gained significant support, and we will provide that information at a later date. Considering that the county currently does not have property rights over the epicenter and has no approved lease, we ask a pause in the proposed county epicenter project. Please give us time and allow the community to develop a comprehensive plan and explore potential funding for this, because we know it takes money, and it's also, we can get...
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Sandy Smith. I'm 77 years old, and I'm an over 50-year resident of Mira Mesa. I am asking that the current epicenter project be put on hold until after the 2024 elections. I spent a lot of time at the Mira Mesa Senior Center, which is located across the parking lot from the epicenter and just across the street from the high school. And I have learned that Mira Mesa is one of the most diverse and talented neighborhoods on the planet. We are missing out on an opportunity that is right in front of us. The epicenter is in the heart of our community, and it should be a place where we can meld together and create a much-needed collective identity. We need a soul. Mira Mesa needs a soul. Please take a pause and let's explore the possibilities that are in front of us and help us capitalize on the city's renewed interest in bringing the arts into the neighborhoods. 2, we need to cut our losses. The epicenter should be condemned, knocked down, and replaced with a larger and more useful building. Currently, if you walk in the portion of the building that is remarkably still being used by the RSVP, you will be hit with the smell of urine and can easily see that it's infested with rats. Rat droppings are everywhere, and they are actually gnawing away at the building for their nests. Asbestos is a real possibility, and we don't need another Ash Street. 3, redundancy is a misuse of $8 million. Our youth are not underserved. Clustered around the epicenter is the high school, the rec center, the library, the community park, all offering endless possibilities, which is why the city let Harmonium out of their lease in 2015. This is why the motive is suspect. The city already knows all of this. That's why the neighborhood is questioning the motive as to why they want to do the same thing over again, which failed. Anyway, thank you very much. I know that you'll all do the right thing. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Yusef Miller with the North County Equity and Justice Coalition Saving Lives in Custody campaign. And I'm here to express the disappointment and the feeling of betrayal by the families that have lost loved ones in custody, that the county and the Sheriff's Department has done a delay move on the sharing of transparency of critical incident reports that has been approved by the Ninth Circuit Court. All this does is delay the inevitable. All it does is prevent transparency in the law enforcement, in the in-custody deaths. We have the highest in-custody death rate last year, the highest in-custody death rate in the entire state of California last year, San Diego County. And today, we're on track to match and or surpass that last year's record. This is something that we need transparency on. This is not the enemy. Transparency is not the enemy. Accountability is not the enemy. Blocking and delaying the release of these reports is just a black eye on our community. The families of Elisa Serna, Gilbert Gill, Saxon Rodriguez, Matthew Settles, Omar Moreno Arroyo, Paul Silva, Raymond Vogelman, Kevin Mills have been seeking this kind of transparency since before the current sheriff. We asked the current sheriff about this during her campaign. She said she would release these reports. Once she was elected, she backtracked and stopped these reports. Then the Ninth District Court agreed with the community that these reports should be released to the community. and then our county reverses it and delays it. This is shameful. We should make sure that we're supporting these grieving families who don't have the information that they need on the loss of life of their loved one, which is insult to injury and continues in the pain of not knowing what happened to their loved ones. Thank you.
Give me 1 second. So I'm just going to remind you to please show some civility in the boardroom. And we ask that you follow the rules. I want to make sure that you know exactly what the rules are so that we don't have to go through this process again. All right, so there you go. That's your first warning, sir, and then that's also your first warning, Consuelo, and we're going to continue to move forward.
Next speaker, please.
Michael, unconditional love does not mean being a doormat. Unconditional love does not mean being a doormat. That's a quote from Anita Morjani, who wrote a great book, Helen, named Dying to Be Me. This board has consistently attempted to manufacture consent for a lie. I'm talking about the last 3 years, and this was not about Nathan Fletcher. This is about this whole institution. I've shared this before, and I want to share it again. Right now, streaming online is a fantastic educational program called theendofcovid.com. If you go to theendofcovid.com, it's free, there's no charge, it's streaming. There's over 99 presentations about every angle of the obfuscation, the gaslighting, the threats, the intimidation, all regarding fake science. There's one program among the 99, it's number 19, by Meredith Miller, which has to do about manufacturing consent. And again, it broaches the topic of narcissistic abuse. And then she talks about it going from the micro to the macro. And that's what we saw with the counterfeit pandemic. Counterfeit pandemic, which was only that because the World Health Organization redefined what a pandemic is. So again, I invite you all to visit theendofcovid.com. It's great.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from those that requested to speak by phone. Again, we'll be hearing from the first 5 callers. The remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll start with our first caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Steve Stone. I'm the Field Services Manager for Fallbrook Public Utility District. I'm speaking on behalf of Mission Resource Conservation District to address a large diameter storm drain that is failing beneath their property at 130 East Alvarado Street in Fallbrook. Fallbrook Public Utility District does not have a role in this as we do not own or operate the stormwater infrastructure. As a public agency, we did put some time in to help evaluate the failing storm drain on the Mission Resources Conservation District's property. During our evaluation, we found the storm drain to be a 10-foot in diameter pipe. This storm drain was originally constructed by the county and captures stormwater for a large area of Fallbrook. The storm drain is cored through accommodating utilities and additional stormwater inlets in many sections on and off the 130 East Alvarado property. It also runs under major roadways and is a structural concern. Mission Resource Conservation District purchased this property from the county for $400,000. The county claims when they bought the building, they also bought the failing storm drain. The cost to repair the storm drain directly under the 130 East Alvarado property is estimated at roughly $500,000, which is more than the original purchase price of the building. The county should have reserved an easement for this major infrastructure at that time of the sale and should be addressing the issue as it is a public safety concern. That is all.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Paul Henkin. Nora you and the board have gone too far in trying to silence it. Please read Brown Act, Section 54957.95, which allows polite, non-disruptive clapping between speakers, which does not actually disrupt the conduct of the meeting. It's in the California Constitution. Please write it down. You're interrupting the speakers to remind them is more disruptive than the clapping. Some interruptions are a bit loud, might bother someone trying to take a cat nap even. Too many items of public importance are being censored by limiting discussion, buried, or removed from public view. Ordinances, even second readings, contracts, and appointments need to be done with public participation. And ordinances are read twice for a reason. In case someone has something to say which he or she found out in the first reading, someone might set up a slush fund without our knowledge. And Sandag's weighted vote is a bit like a tyrant throwing a hissy because he didn't get his way. You need to put the people first, not the conduct of the meeting as you say it, both here and at Sandag. And it looks, by the way, like Sandag has been gaming it since 2021, claiming that it needs some kind of road tax while expecting federal money over what it needs. And still has a few other revenue sources. It doesn't care about your privacy either. And it plans to reach out to families through K-12 school functions and tap into local high schools and colleges to involve youth, disrupting our schools to push its agenda. This is not fair. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Mark, that's your first warning. You're disrupting the meeting.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors, Chair Vargas. My name is Terry Ann Skelly, and I work in public health and youth mentor programs. I've been participating in the county's planning meetings about increasing the number of marijuana businesses in our beloved Back County communities. Our Board of Supervisors seem to recognize the mental health struggles that have afflicted our young adults. As a mother of 3 adult sons, I had hoped for support from the county in recognizing that the county's sponsored internships and mentorships would go a long way for teens and young people whose last couple of years have been perilous and disruptive. So it's been most disheartening for parents that it appears the county wants to underwrite marijuana businesses as a business opportunity when parents do not want them for our young adults. There are so many opportunities we do want young people to have, and we can't believe that this is the best thing that the county can do for us. County money spent on enabling more marijuana businesses would be far better spent on internships in public service, education, medical and tech industries, and away from profiting from the sale of drugs and other unhealthy products. Think of the cascading benefits that comes to future families as our young adults take these skills that would come from work in public service, education, medical and tech industries into their future and their families when they're trying to build their lives. Thank you for hearing my concern this morning.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Barbara Gordon here. I attended the County Social Equity Cannabis Program public meeting last week, and I'm here today speaking on behalf of parents and youth concerned about the expanding of the number of marijuana businesses in the county. As someone who works with young people, it is vital that the priorities that will improve the health of our young people and ensure they have the skills, knowledge, resources, fully productive and lives. A national survey of U.S. adults monitoring the future estimated lifetime prevalence of marijuana use among grade 12 students is almost 29%. We know that youth are a product of their environment. I urge you to rethink the policy that favors the marijuana industry that is especially detrimental to our young people. Substance abuse disorder touches families in every community. Evidence-based research has shown that city policies on the sale and marketing of marijuana increase the access and availability. From my work with young people, substance abuse is the biggest indicator for academic failure. I urge you to not continue to prioritize the marijuana industry that normalizes marijuana use. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the final caller this morning.
Hey, it's Truth, and I've got info to add to you, sir. Here's a San Diego Union Tribune article from July 5th about drugs getting into the jail. Oh. Grand jury said the sheriff's department should screen everyone who enters a jail, including sworn deputies. The Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board also recommended screening employees. Kelly Martinez rejected the idea. Lawsuits related to jail deaths, use of excessive force, and other deputy misconduct have cost taxpayers more than $60 million over the past 5 years, end quote. Now, did everyone have a fun 4th of July? Well, that wasn't supposed to be fun. It was supposed to be reflective and educational. The real reason to celebrate was not food and fireworks. It was the Declaration of Independence. Quote, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. When a long train of abuses and usurpations reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, their duty, to throw off such government of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted. Invasions on the rights of the people, obstructed administration of justice, new offices and swarms of officers to harass our people, the military independent of and superior to the civil power, a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, imposing taxes on us without our consent, depriving us in many cases of trial by jury, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress, answered only by repeated injury. We therefore declare that these united colonies are free and independent states, end quote. See, what most people have, they've never heard the end of that. But what you realize is we're almost in the exact same situation before 1776.
And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning. Again, all the remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes, statement, and proceedings for the regular board supervisors meeting of June 27, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. We have to do all of these by roll call, so I'm going to turn it over to the clerk.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson.
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Aye.
And Chairwoman Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
That motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
All right. So before we go to our consent item, I just want to remind folks, if you want to have conversations, you're welcome, to have those conversations. That is your second warning. I'm trying to make sure that I remind everyone that according to the board's rules and procedures, audience members should not whistle, clap, stomp feet, or anything that disrupts the proceedings. If you're disrupting the proceedings, I will acknowledge and let you know. So Consuelo, I just acknowledged you of your Consuelo. I just acknowledged you for your second disruption of the meeting. We have a lot of items on this meeting. We have a lot of wonderful people who are here to want to make sure that their voices are heard. And so we're going to have a good meeting. We're going to have a meeting where people are going to follow the rules and procedures. If you don't follow those rules and procedures, I will ask you to leave the chambers. That's my last reminder to all of you. Thank you very much. With that, we have a consent item. We'll now proceed with the formation of our consent calendar. Items 1 through 5 and 7 to 10. Members of the public will be able to comment on the consent calendar after the supervisor pull the items they want to discuss. Would any of my colleagues like to discuss any of these items? Supervisor Anderson.
Sorry, I was muted. Not this time. I'm good to go. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Supervisor Desmond?
I said, quick question. Are we taking 6 in open comment or in?
Oh, item 6 was, go ahead, you want to?
Item 6 was withdrawn at the request of the Treasurer Tax Collector.
Okay, I didn't know that. All right. I have no comments to make on the consent calendar, and I'll move its approval.
Wonderful. Vice Chair Lawson-Remer? Thank you. I don't have anything to pull either. I just want to make sure that I thank my colleagues. I'm excited that we have this application for technology and innovation hub designation for economic development. I'm really looking forward to bringing additional dollars and for our county to be able to apply for this funding and to make sure that we are designated as a tech hub. So excited about that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to public comment. And as a reminder, again, to members of the public, please keep your comments related to those items only on the consent calendar. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to the clerk.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 9 requests to speak on items on the consent calendar, 4 in person and 5 requesting to speak by phone. Any members of the public that requested to speak on the consent calendar, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. I'd like to invite forward the following individuals: Mark, Michael Brando, Consuelo, and No Hole P. If I've called your name, please come forward. You may come forward in any order. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. I'll ask you to state your name for the audio record, and please identify which item on the consent calendar you're speaking on.
Mark, number 1, fires. There's a recent article, a Good Samaritan, actually caught somebody. He followed them after watching them set the fires. They had a stolen vehicle from another state. They set them with flares. They had a bunch of more flares. The article never mentioned the person's name. That's really fishy because there's no way for me or anyone to follow up on this person. For all we know, they could be released, literally, because if you're ignoring the fact that there are globalists that want to get people out of the rural areas, this is a known fact. These people here, like Nora, that is her agenda. She's doing that for them. And to ignore the fact that they have a great interest in setting fires, and they also own most of the shares in the insurance companies that are tripling the rates for these people, so they can't afford to own homes in the rural areas, which is just what the UN agenda wants. So that's really fishy. Transitional housing, well, sure, that would be a great idea, except by not stopping inflation that's caused by the Federal Reserve, it's going to hurt everyone. Everyone's going to get poor, be totally stressed, have more mental problems. So it's just like a Band-Aid on somebody whose arm has been cut off. You're ignoring the problem. Public health, you ignored Michael Borrello's 100-and-something page report with real vaccine reports from the medical community. So I don't have a whole lot of faith in what you're going to do with the public health system and the money you're putting into that. Grand jury reports, you're not reporting Agenda 21 being done by Nora, who's both chairing this organization and chairing SANDAG. And SANDAG is an illegitimate organization. Rosa Corey talks about that a lot in these videos. There's also a part 2 and 3. You guys need to see these. Tech giants could be good, but instead the tech is being used for UN Agenda 21 inventory and control. You guys need to see these videos. I'm out of time as usual.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Knowles.
I did number 3.
Consuelo, this pertains to almost all of them. See, people, they keep creating the chaos and they have you believing that you have no other choice but to depend on them. Master manipulators. There's no limit for them when it comes to their corrupt ways. They rely heavily on ignorance and confusion. Government claims to like it when their citizens are engaged and involved. They don't. Only if you are in agreement and comply with their crap. They use violence with unconsented authority because it keeps you in line. They buy up homes and land because it ensures your reliance on them. They inflate the economy to tax you further. They keep you sedated with bullshit so that you don't realize what's happening in the world. The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. Government knows what a united people are. that they know that a united people are not easy to control. Their efforts in keeping us divided in every way imaginable, divide and conquer. The first step in changing their system is to stop complying with it, become ungovernable. Disobedience to their unjust authority is needed now more than ever. You don't need government's permission to live. You never have. We are sovereign beings. Humanity didn't sign up for any of this. We never agreed to their bullshit laws over our lives. You weren't born to just work, pay bills, pay taxes, and die. Government has no shame. They even tax us for dying. Fuckers. Are you getting it? You can't vote your way back to freedom. You'll never find justice in a world where criminals make all the rules. Anything built on a pretense of inauthenticity is going to collapse. With that being said, we know what's around the corner, we know what they're preparing us for, and what's about to happen. It's time for us to start coming together and create our own system, a system that works for all, taking responsibility.
Thank you. Your time is up. Your time is up. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I didn't know how to say that dude's name too. It's a Greek god of gambling. You guys know who I am. And I just wanted to say I don't consent with any of that stuff. And then on top of that, I wasn't sure if Claudia or you guys weren't sure, and I'm gonna be looking into election interference. Because it would be very terrible if someone went to go apply to run for the 4th Board of Supervisors districts, and then cops showed up at their door basically the next day. That would be a very terrible thing that would happen, I would think. But in regards to all of the things that you guys love to approve, I'm still looking for the legitimacy of our elections, and I would like you to provide that to us so that we could know that what you guys are doing is in our best interest, not your own. I would like you guys to answer my questions that I've asked multiple times on how do you stop third-party individuals from changing and adjusting votes? Curiosity. I didn't think it was possible. But somehow you know 100% every single time when you're missing more ballots than you count. You know that none of those were used to switch out. I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
Sir, what item on the consent agenda are you speaking?
All of them. I thought I was clear. All of them. I don't know whose agenda you're going for, the people or yours. I don't know because I don't know about our elections. So please, is it clear to you now? Nora, is it clear? You asked me a question, I'm asking you a question back. Or are you ignoring the people? Obviously, you're ignoring the people. Have a good one.
Next speaker, please.
Election interference.
Michael, please do not interrupt me, especially regarding the Brown Act, because I see it says limits comments, or at least this Rule 4, limit comments only to those on the consent calendar. And this has to do with consent calendar item number 7, this relationship with the grand jury. One thing you're not seeing in this back and forth that apparently goes on between this board and the grand jury and its grand jury reports is a complaint that was filed back in December, and it was dismissed in January. But the most interesting thing about this is that this complaint, there was no reason given why it was dismissed. And again, it does have to do with Mike Borello's report on all the people that have been injured and or killed by the COVID serum injections. The grand jury didn't give a reason. All this data was provided to them, just as it's been provided to you, Jim, all of you, with, I think almost more than 200 pages of information with all these links to all this, including theirs. They didn't do anything with it. They just dropped it, and they didn't give a reason. All this work was done. All this data was provided, and it fell on deaf ears. So that calls into question, what is the relationship between the grand jury and the Board of Supervisors? That's something we should all be concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll start with our first caller.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. I was calling for two things. The first one is is number 7, grand jury, and the other one is number 10, the periodic financial report. And starting with number 10, I want to just mention to you guys that you still have so much money in the ARPA funding. On page 38, as fund number 61040, you still have $560 million in cash that hasn't actually been used. I know most of this has been encumbered for the future, but you actually have to spend it. And so, for me, I would like you to use some of that money to make the TV shuttle free instead of having parking meter revenue. And then the next thing were the 3 very important grand jury permanent Court of Housing, the Sheriff's Department incarceration of their welfare fund, where the money is not actually going to go to the prisoners. And then also the governance of San Diego Bay and Tidelands and regions. I'm not sure if you guys know, but there is a new law that says that San Diego can take over all the Tidelands, even past the existing U.S. bulkhead line that is located at the end of the pier. So, for example, if you guys wanted to build, new San Diego headquarters, a new central mobility hub, a new city hall, a new opera house, you could actually go way into San Diego Bay. And what you would do is you would see the length of the piers are now, just double it. You have all this brand new space that you haven't even thought about of what you could build there. So when you're looking at this report and filing it, think of all the wonderful things that you could do. And of course, I always bring up my papaya plan because this is all liquefiable soil, where you could actually create underground space under everything else. And then you could actually future-proof against sea level rise, like the city county administration building is future-proof by having the foundation and at least levels of under.
We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Chair Vargas and members of the board. My name is Chris Olson, Chief of Staff at Jewish Family Services San Diego. JFS is calling in support of item 9, specifically the appointment of Fabienne Perloff of the Anti-Defamation League to the Human Relations Commission. Thank you, Supervisor Lawson-Remer, for making this important appointment. At a time of rising anti-Semitism across the country, and even in our own San Diego community, it's critical for there to be Jewish representation on the commission. The commission was established to build bridges, promote inclusivity, and honor the rich diversity of San Diego County. The addition of Fabienne will bring a wealth of personal and professional expertise from the ADL to the commission and our community, and we're very thankful.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Paul Henkin, 2, Statement of Quals. I do not know how any agency, let alone HHSA, with its clouded track record, can enter into a contract simply on the basis of a statement of qualifications. Someone can look like a great foster care provider up front, but when there is an economic downturn, maybe they favor their own kids. Maybe they're great with their own kids, but not with foster kids, or even not with LGBTQ kids. Or maybe they're a great foster parent, but have poor accounting or financial skills and run all sorts of extra costs or create havoc by improper accounting. No one should rely on just one document. And then they can stick us with a 5.5-year contract. 3, Lab Aspire. I wonder if there is a shortage of lab doctors because of the misinformation push, and I would rather not get into a job which changes test criteria like wastewater testing, essentially punishes thousands of people for something out of their control. Great idea to fund training for lab execs, though. I'm surprised to hear the board blandly say diseases like typhoid, smallpox, and diphtheria are now considered diseases of the past, given the county's recent experience with TB, which was also once considered a disease of the past. One, fire expenditures. I'm glad the county is finally getting around to safety and EMS improvements county-wide. But do we really need to do this on an equitable basis? I mean, if you have an emergency, you need treatment regardless of your zip code.
Thank you.
We'll
now hear from the next caller.
I mean, as we can see, the world is turned upside down. That's why things like Mike Borello's report gets rejected from the grand jury. That's why the police can beat up women and, that woman is a criminal. That's why, we're supposed to be able to redress our grievances and we come in and we get arrested or beat up just for doing it. So that couldn't be more clear as to why we need to actually, take heed to what the Declaration of Independence says and quit messing around because we're allowing all of this to happen. So you guys are dealing with foster care. We always talk about children and their well-being and wanting to help them, yet, we perpetuate, pedophilia and, child trafficking through all of these means. Especially we have, promoting a Pride Progress flag that has maps on it, which doesn't make any kind of sexual assault victim feel welcome in their own town. You have to put that on all these buildings, making it so that, pedophiles are welcome. So good. And then you guys know this Lab Aspire, since we have this pandemic preparedness treaty coming in 2024 from the World Health Organization, your friends, Nora, in the UN, is this in preparation for that? Because you guys will have no sovereignty when that comes, and they're going to bring down another faux pandemic, so you guys are basically getting prepared for that. And then this whole hub of tech stuff, you guys, it's like you want to be the best in everything, right? San Diego has to be the first in this, the first to promote pedophilia, the first to kill everybody with these shots, the first to lock everybody down and ruin everybody's lives. You're doing so great. But all this technology does collect data and destroys people's lives. So who's going to engage in some kind of privacy advisory board that talks about the surveillance that's going to be coming down from all of these hubs? You're just like the city that has over 300 technologies that they don't want to tell.
Now hear from the final caller.
It's truth. Item 1, I recommend every city leave the county fire district, the same as Fallbrook and Rainbow left the county water district. Item 2 is over $14 million for 18 to 25-year-old adults in foster care programs. If the item's going to say it supports the framework for ending homelessness's root cause, then I want to see substance abuse treatment provided in every program from now on. Item 3 is over $581,000 state debt dollars for state-picked and trained lab directors and assistants for the county public health lab. Item says many directors are currently directing more than one lab. Item 4 allows Helen to beg the U.S. Economic Development Administration to designate and then financially help turn San Diego into a stupid smart city tech hub. Item 5 is over $319,000 in unclaimed property tax refunds that the county gets to keep because people don't know, while Joe makes sure the public never hears where it's spent. Item 7 is approving Helen's responses to the grand jury's findings. Under housing, finding 2, the county failed to meet their housing allocation for all income levels. Helen agreed. A county response: develop an inclusionary ordinance requiring affordable housing as part of market rate housing development. So exclusive to say no to housing you don't like. Development at the maximum density allowed by the general plan. Consider a tax to fund affordable housing. Under housing for the homeless, finding 2, the city and county of San Diego can often take up to 2 months to fill a vacancy at permanent supportive housing. Finding 5, low staffing impacts the ability to deliver meaningful services. And item 9, no to Patricia K. Coleman to the Civil Service Commission, as she claims to be an expert in change management. And no to Fabian Perlow to the Human Relations Commission. Absolutely no, not under my watch, Nora, to the United Nations trained regional director of the spy organization known as the ADL. No consent to the consent, which is routinely not routine, as usual. We don't need Perlow there at all either. She's the worst out of the consent.
Thank you. Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on the items in the consent calendar.
Thank you. I'm happy to second the motion for the consent calendar. Please call the roll.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson.
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond. Aye. Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Aye.
Chairwoman Vargas.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye. As we move into the discussion items, I want to note that item 18 regarding the tax and revenue anticipation note program is being withdrawn. Again, item 18 is withdrawn. Members of the public may still speak on the withdrawal, but no action will be taken today. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 11. It's an ordinance to amend section 31.23, San Diego Code to create a new path for volunteer reserve firefighters. I'm going to hand it over to our county team. I'm super excited about this and the impact it's going to have on our community. So take it away.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Good morning, members of the board. We are before you today to consider improvements to the county's Volunteer Reserve Firefighter Program. Today's actions will strengthen the opportunity for San Diego County residents to begin a firefighting career by addressing financial barriers to becoming a reserve firefighter and creating an attainable career path for those looking to join the fire service. There are also plans to focus engagement and recruitment at the high school level. We have the opportunity to enhance the diversity of our firefighting workforce so that it better represents the communities served in our region, which will be highlighted this morning as part of our presentation. Joining me today is CAL FIRE Chief and County Fire Chief Tony Meacham and San Diego County Fire Director Jeff Collins. I'll first turn the presentation over to Jeff Collins.
Thank you, Holly. To improve fire protection, County Fire implemented the Volunteer Reserve Firefighter Program to ensure communities without career firefighters had coverage to provide fire and emergency medical services. At the start of 2013, there were 19 fully volunteer fire stations with the goal to have at least 3 persons per engine 365 days per year. Although the Volunteer Reserve Firefighter Program was helpful for individuals wanting experience to pursue a career in fire service, it was not a sustainable model. The county instead expanded its cooperative agreement with CAL FIRE to add paramedic-level career firefighters to all stations to ensure around-the-clock service to protect lives and property in our rural areas. With career staffing in place, the program's primary focus has shifted towards providing valuable work experience for our volunteers that will help them obtain permanent position in the fire service. The Volunteer Reserve Program currently has 30 firefighters, each assigned to 1 or 2 battalions and are responsible for working 3 24-hour shifts per month. In addition to attending training courses, reserve firefighters work alongside CAL FIRE staff where they learn valuable skills, network, and gain essential experience, especially during wildfires. Under the current program, there are 5 position classifications and stipend rates as shown on this slide. All applicants begin as an entry-level volunteer reserve firefighter and have opportunities to move up, receiving a higher stipend with each promotion. Stipends were last updated in 2019, but still don't adequately reimburse participants for the expenses incurred to volunteer, such as fuel and vehicle costs, equipment, and meals. The current stipend can create access and financial barriers for entry, including the travel distances for rural residents to attend firefighting academies and for urban residents to volunteer at rural fire stations. Additionally, the loss of income due to not working full-time and the equipment purchases needed can be a significant deterrent for low-income individuals. I'll now turn the presentation over to Chief Meacham.
To adequately address the time and financial investment our volunteers make for our program, we propose increasing the shift stipend and combining classifications to create 2, which will simplify the process and provide more on-the-job training opportunities. The 2 reserve classifications will be restricted volunteer reserve and full volunteer reserve firefighter. Restricted reserve firefighters will receive a shift stipend of $192 for a 12-hour shift. To qualify for restricted reserves, applicants must be enrolled in a fire science program and have completed their emergency medical technician training. Restricted reserves personnel will primarily observe and function as an intern role. Additional opportunities for training may be available for restricted volunteer reserves to obtain paramedic certification if funding allows. Full reserves will need to have their Firefighter 1 certification upon application and will receive the 24-hour stipend of $384 per shift. They will be required to work 3 24-hour shifts per month and will supplement CAL FIRE County Fire staffing. Full reserve staff are expected to perform the same duties and responsibilities as career personnel. This will provide valuable on-the-job training, the opportunity to build and maintain skills, and the experienced volunteers gain will make them highly valuable to a future fire agency. The proposal to update the stipend levels will adequately reimburse volunteers for their participation and limit financial barriers for prospective applicants. For fiscal year 23-24, County Fire added a full-time training captain to support community engagement opportunities and act as a liaison with existing high schools that have a fire or emergency medical services program. The high school engagement program will focus on communities within the San Diego County Fire Protection District with a focus on reducing barriers and support interested students with entering the firefighter and emergency medical services workforce. High school programs such as Lincoln High School and Health Sciences High and Middle College are 2 fully functioning high school fire science programs led by former career firefighting personnel in disadvantaged communities. Student graduates of these programs complete the equivalency of introductory fire academy courses and are able to test for their EMT license. Our program will look to provide Lincoln High School and Middle College with in-kind trainings and to donate used materials to support students' learning, as well as supporting students with joining the reserve program to begin their fire service careers. County Fire and CAL FIRE training captains have started discussions with Ramona High School and continue discussions with Southwest College and Chula Vista as schools for potential partnerships. At Ramona High School, we anticipate providing students with limited firefighter skills training and fire station experience. The program will also support youth with joining volunteer reserves and enrolling in a fire science program to begin their fire careers. For those enrolled at Southwestern College's fire science program, County Fire and CAL FIRE will look to partner with the program to provide additional training, station experience, job shadowing, and career guidance at the new Otay Mesa Fire Station that will be 1 mile from the college. With the partnership, we will support students, providing them with the opportunity to join the volunteer reserve program, as well as provide them valuable experience for their future career. County Fire remains committed to promoting equity and diversity within our region's firefighting and emergency medical services workforce. County Fire will continue seeking grant fundings to support lower income residents with purchasing required equipment and reducing transportation challenges to volunteers at our stations, or for rural residents to attend fire programs at our region's community colleges. These barriers can prevent our region's young people from being able to complete a fire academy and become employed full-time for a fire department or emergency medical services agency. The actions in this board letter are a critical step in achieving a vision where the workforce reflects our region's broad diversity. With the proposed change to the stipend, new engagement program, and future partnerships, County Fire will look to double the current number of volunteer staff to 60 personnel in the next fiscal year. I'll now turn the presentation back to Holly.
Today, we're asking the board to approve the introduction of the ordinance, and if the board takes action as recommended, then on August 29th, the board will consider the second reading, and that concludes our presentation, subject to your questions.
Thank you. I have a lot of wonderful things to say about this program, but I'm going to turn it over to public comment first.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 5 requests to speak on this item, 1 in person and 4 requesting to speak by phone. Also note that we did not receive any e-comments on this item. Any members of the public that requested to speak on item 11 by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speaker. I'd like to invite forward Mark. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
First of all, this isn't necessarily a bad idea to help fund the firefighters. The only problem is it's absolutely a moot point because wood burns at about 660 degrees. That's just a fact of science. And so most fires are definitely caused by people setting them. There are some fires caused by a prism effect from lightning or glass, some naturally created glass, and of course there are some people who accidentally camping start a fire, but there always were. But the incredible increase is definitely people starting fires. And as I stated before, the fact that in the article about the guy being caught as an absolute arsonist who's stealing vehicles and setting off fires with flares and had a bunch more flares in his car, we didn't even get to know his name. I mean, he could be doing it again now. They release murderers. The police are pissed off. They release murderers in our state out on bail, which is ludicrous and stupid of people to put up with. And but then it's also ludicrous and stupid of people to put up with vaccines, corporations being exempt from being sued. I mean, that just derails the entire idea of our justice system. So anyway, the fires are being created. They're being done probably by far. The greatest motive would be the fraction of a 1% that own all of the shares of everything, including insurance companies, who openly want the people out of the rural areas, and it's succeeding very well. 80% of the rural area has been declared a high fire danger zone. They can't get insurance. It's working perfectly for Agenda 21. You guys are doing...
Thank you. Thank you. Your time is up. Now we'll hear from those that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Paul Henkin, you awake, Nora? Making improvements in a volunteer firefighting force is a great move. A few ideas. One of the most important things is providing on-site resource people to answer questions should volunteer firefighters forget instructions or have other issues. If transportation to training is impractically long, why not bring the training to the volunteers? Sessions open to the community. You're already having sessions at school. And if you want to be serious about making equipment available to all income levels, may I suggest that you provide equipment rather than stipends? Except, of course, it would be nice to compensate people for time spent away from jobs and for their time and possibly injuries. So I guess this would be stipends. But really, the thing about equipment is that sometimes just having it there jogs the memory if the volunteer forgets his or her instructions. Making improvements in a volunteer firefighting force is a great idea. It's a pity it had to wait while we're already in wildfire season. Thanks.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Yeah, as Mark was saying, with all these, declaring things, high fire zones, that's really how you're going to get people out of the unincorporated area. You're doing it other ways by putting up, all these vehicle mile traveled issues anyway. But I think it's interesting you're engaging with students on this. But I'm wondering in your training, because, all of these electric vehicles that you want people to drive and that you think are just, they're great. Well, those lithium batteries are combustible, and then when they do start on fire, like when these kids, in Murrieta just recently, died in their car because they couldn't get out, those fires can't be put out. So I'm wondering if you're talking to them about how you can mitigate those fires, be it with sand or something else, or do you just wait until those fires come to pass and then you'll decide how to deal with it, as well as the chemtrail spraying, all of the toxins and the flammable materials that they actually spray in our skies that go into our bodies, but also onto the land, and it makes things more flammable. So are you guys training them about that kind of stuff and how you need to mitigate that, or is it just, fires here and there, whatever it is. Like, you guys never want to really get down to why these fires get started, but you want to push your agenda into, you know, densely populated areas, so you'll classify things as a fire zone, so, you know, people can't get insurance and can't live out there, then they're forced to move into the city. You know, you guys have this whole plan. You think people don't see it, and you want to act like we're crazy, but we see you. God sees you. And if you guys don't turn away from what you're doing, you're headed straight to hell. Period. And it's hot there because you know what? The fire never goes out, so then maybe you'll be able to figure out how to deal with fires then. I don't know. Good job.
Thank you. Now hear from the final caller.
This is Truth, and I started watching today's live stream right when Nora said she sucks. Timing is everything, and mine's on fire. So these supervisors are okay with only 250 career firefighting personnel, but they want 18,500 behavioral health workers to double the size of county government. Talk about nuts. That's going to be a theme today. They even resorted to looking for volunteer firefighters, even though it was clearly not a sustainable model of unpaid workers. While those in the behavioral health fee system are overpaid to dole out needles and psychotropic drugs and conservatorshipping people's entire lives away. I still remember a meeting a few months ago where an item said the supervisors would not approve any more needed fire stations. Yet now they're bringing the same failed model back because they believe there's still value in augmenting full-time staff with volunteers. Well, of course there's value in free labor, especially when the county keeps having to pay out millions of dollars in lawsuits every meeting. Got to pinch those pennies on fire safety when there's failures with the sheriffs or inmate safety under Kelly Martinez. But even though they admit that, quote, access barriers include long transportation time for rural residents to attend firefighting academies and for lower-income individuals to purchase the equipment and loss of income from not working full-time, end quote, they're going to try it again with higher stipends instead of a paycheck, and getting those high school students with some propaganda about a supposed career idea. If they're going to be expected to volunteer, then that honestly sounds like child labor exploitation. And if you guys don't catch the wild arsonists or stop the wild lithium fires from electric vehicles, scooters, and bikes, then there's no point in even discussing fire safety. It's just another county money-saving scheme right on its face. Kind of a farce, like hearing Meacham say the word diversity. It makes me laugh.
Thank you.
Right?
And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you so much. And so I wanted to just say thank you to our CAO and our San Diego County Fire Protection District and everyone who worked so hard on this to making sure that this was available for our communities and for our students. I really thank the county fire team for really thinking outside the box and really, you know, I know that there's a lot of work that you're all doing to address devastating fires, but you're really thinking of how we can actually create a resilient workforce and really create a path for our communities. And I think when I first got elected and had an opportunity to meet with you, I said, you know, it's something that is really important to me. I saw how wonderful the academy was at Southwestern and how we were able to have so many young folks from our communities who are actually now in these roles. And so I'm excited. And I know that you were very clear in your presentation that there is a stipend for not only the restricted volunteer reserves, but also for the full volunteer reserves. And I think that makes a really huge difference, particularly for our communities. I remember chatting with some of these young people, and they were saying that cost and financial support was always a huge issue for them. So I appreciate that you are looking into that and that there's going to be support for them. So I also am grateful that you have this, that you're doing the outreach that needs to happen so that we can make sure that the diversity of the programs is really exemplified in the work that you're doing. So as the program rolls out, I also want to understand what else we can do to remove barriers to ensure that we have folks participate. And so I'm excited, and I am looking forward to the number of future participants because I know that the first responder jobs are wonderful, wonderful opportunities for our community, and so grateful for that. And with that, I'm happy to make a motion to support this item. And the next person is Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Chair. I think you pretty much summarized it for me. I just want to say thank you very much for bringing this forward and bringing this to us. And I think creating more opportunities for volunteer firefighters, and then hopefully bringing them into the system and creating that pipeline and giving them a wage that's somewhat attractive, and hopefully we can keep them. So thank you very much for bringing this forward.
Lawson Remer? Oh, okay.
I just wanted to say, when you think about what do we need to do to keep our community safe, I think we think first and foremost about our county employees, our firefighters, the people who work on the front lines. But equally important is the individuals who volunteer their time and who make up such an important part of the heart and soul of our community. And I really appreciate a program that taps that potential. And taps the potential of our entire community to kind of step forward, frankly, and make sure that we can stay safe in the face of rising wildfire threats. I think it's really creative and really looks to more to outside the box solutions to do everything we can to keep our community safe. So thank you very much.
Supervisor Anderson, do you have any comments? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just can't see your name on here, so I want to just make sure. Feel free to.
No, thank you very much. I wasn't going to speak, but we're now entering fire season, and of course, my district is always terribly impacted by it. So I am more than grateful for staff's efforts to do this, and I agree. Going to the locals to protect their own homes in businesses makes great sense. So excellent work by staff. And if you don't have a motion, I'm happy to make the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and call the roll.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson.
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lawson Remer.
Aye.
Chairwoman Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
The motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
And so for purpose of transparency, I just want folks to know, you're good. Thank you very much. That there are new rules when we have somebody, a member who is actually online, which means that in order for us to keep quorum down here, we all have to be here present at all times. That means that if we needed to take a quick break for anything, we couldn't because then we would lose quorum. So I just want to let people know that that's the conversation I was having with my colleagues. There was nothing else happening here. And so with that, we're going to take a 5-minute break and we'll come back to continue with our next item. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and move on to next item, which is discussion item number 12, gun violence community needs assessment, final report and recommendations. Before I hand over the floor to our county team, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that, this morning, this is such an important issue, and this morning, I want to acknowledge that we learned, right, that an infant that was fatally shot by the 3-year-old sibling in the Fallbrook community, all because they had access to an unlocked and loaded gun. And it's a tragedy that firearms are the third leading cause of death among children in California. And so the item that you all have brought forward to us particularly focuses on how we can prevent children from accessing these deadly weapons by properly storing firearms and keeping them in secure places in their home. This plan in no way, absolutely no way, restricts or limits gun ownership. Instead, it is really intended to ensure that we prevent tragedies like this one from reoccurring. And so I wanted to say thank you to the Public Safety Committee. I know you're going to be doing a presentation right now, but I wanted to say that I really appreciate that you took into consideration so many points of view, and I want to thank our Vice Chair for really leading the efforts on this issue. And I also want to acknowledge that the community participated in dozens of listening tours and provided provided feedback as to what they were experiencing. And I also want to thank all the stakeholders. I know we have numerous community members that have sent e-comments and then also that are participating today. But particularly the Gun Violence Reduction Advisory Group, who worked alongside, our teams to inform the findings and final recommendations for the work plan. So I'm going to go ahead and have you do the presentation, but I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge this young person who's no longer with us anymore. Thank you.
Good morning again, Chairwoman Vargas and members of the board. On April 5th of last year, your board approved a recommendation for us to conduct a contractor-led regional gun violence community needs assessment to better understand the scope, complexity, and impact of gun violence in our communities and to share key findings with your board upon completion. Today, we're joined by Dr. Daniel Polk of Health Assessment and Research for Communities, known as HARC, the consultant who led the extensive data analysis, community outreach, and best practice review. Dr. Polk will present some key findings included in the final report and an overview of their recommendations. And I'm also joined by Julie Jekyll with the Public Safety Group, and she will present the county's collaborative work plan and recommendations. So I'll first turn the presentation over to Dr. Polk.
Thank you, Holly. Good morning, Chairwoman Vargas, members of the board. I'm pleased to provide you with an overview of our final report for the Gun Violence Community Needs Assessment that began for us approximately 10 months ago. The project had 3 main components. First was to better understand the scope of gun violence in the region and communities most impacted. Second, using community input, was to identify existing resources and best practices as well as community concerns and gaps. Third was to produce key findings that can be used to develop strategies for continuing gun violence reduction efforts. Community engagement was at the center of the needs assessment project. Perspectives from the community were gathered through 5 primary means, including 2 surveys completed by over 1,500 individuals with an interest in this issue, 12 community listening sessions and forums designed to gather perspectives, experiences, and opinions of the public, the formation and convening of a 16-member community advisory group made up of community members as well as county representatives, the ability for individuals to provide online feedback directly on the project website, and the distribution of regular project updates to those who express interest in the project. A variety of data sources were analyzed to understand gun violence in San Diego County, including the Medical Examiner's Office, Health and Human Services Agency, Emergency Medical Services, and the Automated Regional Justice Information System, or ARJIS, as well as data from several independent research organizations. The data from those sources showed that from 2017 to 2022, there were 1,310 firearm-related deaths in San Diego County. The majority were suicides, 70.9%, and 28.9% were homicides. For comparison, in the state of California during this same period, the firearm-related deaths were about 50.5% suicide, with 48.3% homicide. So the proportion of firearm-related suicides is higher in San Diego County. This slide shows changes in firearm-related homicides and suicides over 5 years, from 2017 to 2021. The bar graphs represent the number of suicides and homicides each year. Suicides represented by the thick blue bars and homicides represented by the thick gray bars. There was an average of 62 firearm-related homicides per year and an average of 157 firearm-related suicides per year. For trends over time, as shown by the thin blue line above, the firearm-related suicide rate has decreased by about 18%, and in contrast, the firearm-related homicide rate, shown by the thin gray line below, has increased 56.3%. How does this compare with the state? While the firearm-related suicide rate has decreased in the county, this suicide rate nonetheless remains higher than the state average. And while the firearm-related homicide rate has increased in the county, this homicide rate remains lower than the state average. Other key findings from the assessment include that for both suicides and homicides, the most common manner of death from 2017 to 2021 was firearm. We also looked at firearm-related suicides and homicides by race, age, and gender during this same period. Firearm-related suicides were highest among white residents, males, and those over the age of 65. In contrast, firearm-related homicides were highest among black residents, Hispanic residents, males, and those ages 25 to 44. While federal healthcare data, including military and Veterans Administration data, were not available for this assessment, death data from the medical examiner's office did indicate that some individuals were veterans. That data showed that from 2017 to 2022, nearly 1 in 5 firearm-related deaths were veterans. The great majority, 93.3%, died by suicide. This chart shows hospitalizations over a 5-year period for firearm-related injuries. From 2016 to 2020, there were 1,367 firearm-related injuries. The blue bar graphs represent the number of hospitalizations each year. There was an average of 140 firearm-related hospitalizations per year. In total, there were 699 firearm-related hospitalizations over this 5-year period. More than half, 51.6%, were due to assault, and 35.3% were due to accidents. As shown by the thin green line above, the firearm-related hospitalization rate has increased by 19%. From 2016 through 2020, there were 668 firearm-related emergency department visits in the county. More than 2/3 of these visits were due to accidents, and less than 1/4 were due to assaults. The blue bar graphs represent the number of emergency department visits each year for firearm-related injuries. There is an average of 134 such injuries per year. We also looked at firearm-related injuries by race, age, and gender during this same period. Firearm-related injuries were highest among black residents as well as Hispanic residents, males, and those between the ages of 15 to 24. The perspectives, experiences, and opinions of community members and those who work with or for populations impacted by gun violence were sought throughout the assessment. I will now share some high-level trends we heard from the community. As you can imagine, we heard a wide range of perspectives on the topic. Some of the top perceived causes of gun violence were mental health, crime and gang violence, access to firearms, lack of family and social support systems, and drug or substance abuse. the public highlighted a multitude of possible solutions to reduce gun violence. A few of the most noted solutions included mental health care, strict enforcement or higher penalties for crimes, firearm regulation or background checks, youth mentorship programs, and funding for community-based organizations. When asked about the most needed programs and services, evidence-based practices such as mental health counseling, gang prevention programs, after-school programs, mentorship programs, and domestic violence support services were among the highest rated in our community survey. Next, I will discuss possible solutions to address gun violence, including promising best practices and our recommendations. Solutions were developed in concert with community partners using findings from the secondary data review and input from the community. We conducted a best practice literature review looking at existing studies to highlight proven or promising practices for possible implementation or expansion in the county. The board directed a public health approach, so solutions were sought across the 3 levels of prevention, from actions designed to stop violence before it starts to services that address immediate and long-term responses to violence. Recommendations were organized under 4 strategic areas: advocacy and awareness, community engagement and collaboration, community healing and trauma-informed practice, and planning and evaluation. Our goal was to identify practical and proven actions the county can implement to reduce gun violence. An overview of the recommendations are provided on this slide. Recommendations are intended to build public awareness of effective violence prevention strategies and connect individuals to culturally tailored resources, to center community engagement in this work by creating opportunities for community input and leadership, to create strong collaborative partnerships that build community capacity for self-healing and that connect people to trauma-informed services, and to demonstrate commitment to gun violence reduction over the long term. These recommendations are a starting point for the county to pursue long-term assessment and advancement of gun violence reduction throughout the region. Thank you, and I will now turn it over to Julie Jekyll.
Thank you, Dr. Polk. The Gun Violence Reduction Work Plan presented today details 18 proposed actions led by several county departments that address HARC's recommendations. The work plan reflects an integrated approach that takes both individual and systemic issues into account to address the complex drivers of gun violence in our communities. Work plan actions reflect a commitment to the guiding principles for this work, which includes collaborating with those who are directly impacted by gun violence, using reliable data to understand who is most affected by gun violence and what factors are contributing to violence or helping to create safety, focusing on actions that promote healing and minimize harm, and directing adequate resources to those who are experiencing inequities so they have opportunity to attain their full potential. During year 1 of the work plan, which is fiscal year 23-24, the plan includes opportunities to partner with those who serve older adults, as well as the gun-owning community, to reach high-risk populations with suicide prevention resources and to promote gun lock distribution programs. Many of the year 1 actions are designed to lay the foundation for future actions. There are currently no dedicated staff or permanent funding sources for gun violence reduction work at the county. So year 1 actions will allow opportunity to plan for how gun violence reduction work will be structured and organized within the county, which includes establishing a monitoring and evaluation framework and identifying how local data on gun violence can best be shared with stakeholders. Year 1 actions also focus on continuing engagement and collaboration among community stakeholders and public agencies, which includes the establishment and coordination of an ongoing gun violence reduction advisory group, creating an online collaboration platform for agencies and organizations working on gun violence issues in San Diego County, and hosting a town hall or listening session to share work plan progress with the community and to provide space for them to share their perceptions and experiences. The work plan provides additional actions to be carried out in future fiscal years. Some highlights of the work plan items proposed for year 2 are to collaborate with community stakeholders to identify opportunities to enhance community-based intervention programs, such as street outreach and other violence interruption programs, and youth-focused prevention programs and services, such as mentorship and after-school programs, as well as establishing partnerships between trauma hospitals and community-based organizations to strengthen and enhance support services for firearm injury patients and their families. Several proposed actions in year 2 will require significant funding and/or collaboration that will likely require consulting contracts over the long term to complete the actions. Fiscal impacts related to these future year work plan actions will be included for consideration and approval when staff return to the board in early 2024. The work plan is a living document that will be updated as new priorities are identified. We will work with partners to review and prioritize recommendations for future board consideration while assessing whether these efforts can be incorporated into other relevant prevention initiatives. I will now turn the presentation back to Holly.
Thank you, Julie and Dr. Polk. Today's recommendations include receiving HARC's Gun Violence Community Needs Assessment Final Report, the county's work plan, and authorization to submit grant applications to help support and expand violence prevention and intervention work in our communities. If directed, we will return to the board in early 2024 with plans for how gun violence reduction efforts will be organized and structured within the county, a proposed evaluation framework for ongoing gun violence reduction efforts, and an initial update on the work plan items. I'd like to acknowledge the work of the HARC team for their effort in compiling and analyzing a large amount of data that supported the actions before you today, and the 16 members of the Community Advisory Group for their time and input over the past year. Chairwoman Vargas and members of the board, this concludes our presentation, and we are available for your questions.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Supervisor Lawson-Weimer, Vice Chair.
Thank you so much to our county team. I think all of us are heartbroken over the constant drumbeat of mass shootings. We live in the United States, the only nation in the world where civilian guns outnumber people. So we've become accustomed to unimaginable pain and devastation. Just yesterday in San Diego County in Fallbrook, I think we all are aware that a 3-year-old found an unsecured gun in their home and accidentally shot and killed their 1-year-old sister. And we have the power to change this. If the gun had been safely stored, according to some of the recommendations that our staff has brought back, we might be having a different outcome. We know that safe storage saves lives, and this kind of tragedy underscores the really urgent need for education and outreach and coming together to promote responsible firearm ownership in our community, and really ensuring that firearms are safely stored away from children. Though commendable steps have been taken with the community needs assessment and the gun violence reduction work plan, we must acknowledge that they are not yet enough. We have so much more work to do, and we need to take more action to address the epidemic of gun violence that inflicts pain and devastation on our communities. This report back, I think, is an important first step in that direction. I appreciate the work that county staff has done to pull this together. I'd like to make a motion to adopt it. So thank you for the team. We have a lot more work to do, but I think this is a step in the right direction. So thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to public comment.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 24 requests to speak on this item, 15 in person and 9 requesting to speak by phone. I also note for the record that we received 41 e-comments, 39 in favor and 2 neutral. Also, we have 5 individuals that registered their support but did not wish to address the board. Any members of the public that requested to speak on item 12 by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers, starting with those in favor of this item. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. I'll be calling you in groups of 5, so I'll ask you to please listen for your name. I'd like to invite forward Alan Hargens, Jill Cooper, Roseanne Sharp, Teresa Heimer, and Yusef Miller. If I've called your name, please come forward. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and you may come forward in any order.
Are you ready to start?
Yes, please come forward.
As you know, my name is Roseanne Sharp, and today I want to thank you again for honoring my husband and his work. Safe storage was a signature part of his work. He was also a member of the Community Advisory Board, and so he saw this as not a perfect study, but a study that was a beginning. And very much we feel that we hope you will support this. There is nothing about anything in here that is going to harm someone from losing their rights under the Constitution. But what we are doing is approaching the safety of our community. Right now, our youngest citizens are incredibly unprotected, as you've designated today with your comments. We're heartbroken about an unlocked gun loaded after all the work that we've all done. So we have much more work to do. And I stand here representing a lot of people. Our organization was founded after Parkland. We have in the audience today people from Parkland. And the drumbeat is the same: do something. Do something. So I'm asking you, from Parkland to Highland Park to Fallbrook, please do something and support this very early beginning of a report. We count on you to protect our youngest and most vulnerable citizens. They are also our most valuable, and I hope you will pass this report. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I appreciate everybody who may be new to the chambers. For purposes of making sure that we're fair to everyone, we don't allow clapping in the chambers, and you're welcome to acknowledge with a this way or something else, but no clapping. So thank you very much.
Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Chairwoman Vargas, Supervisors Anderson, Desmond, and Lawson Reamer. Thank you for listening to our county residents' concerns about gun violence prevention and for this report. My name is Jill Cooper, and I'm a strategist for Never Again, California. I'm also a retired teacher, and I've taught first grade in Solana Beach and Carlsbad. You may have noticed that every time there's a school mass shooting, there are teachers who are killed. We put the protection of our students' lives above our own. For their safety, we teach them how to behave during active shooter drills. We sit silently together in locked, darkened rooms. When the drill is over, 6-year-olds ask, what if there really was someone with a gun? Too many American school children have experienced or died in mass shootings. Some of their parents are here today. What if we could be proactive and turn troubled potential shooters away from violence? The report before you illustrates what our communities know. Gun violence is destroying our communities and putting our youth at risk. By the time a gun violence restraining order is filed to remove firearms from a person who is a danger to himself or others, it's almost too late. Many counties and school districts have developed programs that assess threats to public safety. Today, I'm advocating for the county to fund and implement a pilot behavioral threat assessment system, such as that described by Mark Folman in his book, Trigger Points. In the Salem-Keizer School District in Oregon, school administrators, teachers, parents, police, and psychologists work together to guide identified troubled persons onto better life paths, away from guns and away from violence. It's a lot of effort, but it is showing success. Our kids are worth the effort. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
I'm Alan Hargens, retired professor of orthopedic surgery at UCSD. And as you can see, I'm a proud member of Never Again, California. So all of these nice people that you see behind me who have orange shirts, I'd like to salute them for everything they are doing. And I'd like to salute you for being so patient and tolerant. during these proceedings. This is my first board meeting, and also I'd like to thank these people over here for putting together such a wonderful report. I think it's, as you say, it's an ongoing report, and I think we can do better. So I would just like to tell you that these outcomes of gun violence have been devastating, not only to our community, but to the nation. And I would encourage you to do everything that you can to reduce this gun violence. Don't take away guns, but make them safe. Thank you very much.
As the next speaker is coming forward, I'd like to invite the remaining speakers in favor: Don Douglas, Carlos Munoz, Elizabeth Munoz, Lori Van Orden, Leah Nepomuceno, and Stephen Abrams. If I've called your name, please come forward.
My name is Therese Heimer. I'm with the Coalition San Diegans for Gun Violence Prevention. As you know, gun violence is a public health crisis. In 2022, Santa Clara County found an annual public sector cost of $72.5 million for gun violence in their county. San Diego has annual gun deaths almost 3 times higher. So a very conservative estimate would be double, or $145 million per year in public sector costs only. This is not just about statistics, however. It is about lost lives and forever changed lives. It is about pain like that felt just yesterday when a 1-year-old died in Fallbrook due to an unsecured gun. Our hearts break for this family over this preventable death, and this shooting is just one in a number of senseless injuries and deaths of children in unintentional shootings, including in Chula Vista, in Scripps Ranch, and at least once before in Fallbrook. The public needs what is in the recommendations before you today to help protect themselves and their families from harm. There is not a single new law proposed in this plan. There are no proposals to remove guns from gun owners. In this fiscal year, which you are asked to approve today, the plan calls for public education, including on safe storage, distributing gun locks, searching for grants to fight violence, developing ways to effectively coordinate county agencies and private organizations' work to prevent violence. There is no additional cost for this fiscal year. If you vote no, you are tying the hands of county staff and not allowing them to take action to save lives. Community members expressed fears in the report that nothing would be done after this assessment. I urge you to instead vote yes and to allow this life-saving work to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Dawn Douglas. I'm with Never Again, California. The report before you illustrates what much of what our communities already know. Gun violence is destroying communities and putting our youth at risk. Through our work at Never Again, California, though our work began with efforts to end gun shows, culminating in the banning of gun shows on all state-owned property, we were able to accomplish more. We were able to point out the risks of ghost guns to our community. We have worked hard with the State of California Superintendent of Instruction to inform parents and guardians of children about California's safe storage laws. We have advocated for more education regarding gun violence, restraining orders within our communities. We will continue our work, and thank you for the opportunity to acknowledge the importance of communities and government working together to solve this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Juan Carlos Munoz Sr. I'm with Junior's Trauma Care Initiative, and we support the gun violence assessment report. My son, Junior, was a victim of gun violence in 2015. So as a community advocate, we see the need, we're first responders, we get dispatched to all these crimes, gun violence crimes around our county. So we see the need out there. There's a need in our school system. There's a need in communities. More than anything, we see what's out there, and we need our healing in our communities. When survivors speak, change happens, and I identify myself as a survivor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Elizabeth Munoz. I'm Carlos's wife. And I am here not only representing Junior's Trauma Care Initiative, which is an organization that we opened a trauma recovery center after our son, Juan Carlos Munoz Jr., was murdered in 2015 by gang members with guns. He was 18 years old, and he had just turned 18 years old and our only child. And he was taken from us for no reason because gang members with guns thought that they could, and they did. And so I'm here with Junior's Trauma Care Initiative. I'm here with Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice as a chapter coordinator, and I'm here as a partner with San Diegans for Gun Violence Prevention. And the reason why I'm here is because the work that you all have already started is so important for our community. It's so important for our children to live. It's not okay for lives to be taken, and yet it happens over and over. Carlos and I respond firsthand to these homicides, and we sit there with families, sometimes 6 hours on a curbside while their loved one is laying on the ground, while their child is laying on the ground. And so this is a start. I'm in favor, and I want to make sure that we continue to move forward and that we bring our community, because it's so important. There's so many things I want to say. 2 minutes is not enough. But I do want to say that immediate and long-term solutions are really important. So if we can please move forward with this. From a mother of a murdered child, we need more in our communities. We need our children to live longer. Thank you. Thank you for the work you've already done.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Stefan Abrams. I'm the Team Enough National Chapter Coordinator. We are Brady's youth program, and I'm here today because gun violence is the leading cause of death for young people in the United States of America. And this is a really important issue for us to really take a first step on, because if you read the report, you heard all these statements from students talking about how their biggest fear is going to school and getting shot. We do not have to live this way. And what's really important about what these recommendations propose is this gun violence reduction advisory group can really have us take a public health and whole of government approach to solving the issue of gun violence, and also San Diego being a leader in the nation on tackling the issue of gun violence. I think it is so important that we continue to lead ahead and show that we are all hands on deck to addressing this issue. Gun violence, as you saw, it just happened yesterday in Fallbrook, is preventable. We know that. We know safe storage education works. I've personally walked in numerous communities across San Diego talking about gun violence restraining orders and safe storage, and knowing the impact it has. This education on these things is important, and we really do need a much needed framework for coordinated action, so we can also make sure that we are funding community organizations to continue to do the great work that they are already doing, whether we support them or not. But it's really important that we are supporting them, because we know we can do so much more to end this problem. We need to make sure we're taking a public health approach to ending gun violence, and this is what these recommendations do. It's a great first step, and thank you for having me. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Leah Nepomuceno, former student board member of the San Diego Unified School District, and I urge you to vote in favor of item 12, implementing a gun violence reduction advisory group. I recently graduated from high school here in San Diego, and living in this city as a young person, I know firsthand the anxieties, frustrations, and fear inflicted by gun violence in our community. Today, you have the opportunity to solidify our city's commitment to address the public health crisis of gun violence and provide a much-needed framework for coordinated action, resources, and research. Last month, I concluded my term as a student board member of the San Diego Unified, the second largest school district in the state of California, where I shared my perspective as a student in the district and co-sponsored numerous resolutions with the aim of cultivating safe school spaces and identifying gun violence prevention as a priority. Youth voices are necessary to push forward meaningful, innovative solutions. Therefore, with the passing of item 12, I also urge the inclusion of young people as a part of the decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lori Van Orden. I'm a board member of San Diegans for Gun Violence Prevention and a San Diego County resident in District 2. I want to thank the board so much for your work on this very important topic. We've all seen the horrific headlines of murders and mass killings with guns. It has to stop. However, what is not so well known, and that we saw in the report, is that the majority of gun deaths in San Diego County and in our nation are those who die by firearm suicide. Today's report points out that in our county, the cities with the highest firearm-related suicide rates are Lemon Grove, El Cajon, and La Mesa, and the unincorporated communities with the highest rates are Ramona, Valley Center, and Lakeside. The report also notes that the majority of victims in San Diego County are white males over the age of 65, which reflects national statistics. Also, over 90% of the veterans in our community who died by suicide used a gun. So suicide by gun is uniquely lethal. According to Be Smart, which is a national program that promotes secure storage of firearms, 90% of suicide attempts with a gun result in death. Having guns securely stored can interrupt an impulsive moment of suicidal ideation so that our loved ones can live another day. That is why I'm here today to support the recommendations made in the report, especially the sections that will increase the education of the public and will make secure storage options like gun locks more accessible. I have personally volunteered with the San Diego Suicide Prevention Council, so I know the good work that it's already being done around means reduction by that organization. But we do need a central county entity that will identify and coordinate all the existing programs around safe storage. For example, the ones being run by the VA and the Alzheimer's Association. And education and access to gun locks need to go hand in hand so our community members understand why this is so important and what they must do as responsible gun owners. Thank you for supporting these life-saving proposals.
Thank you. Final call for Yusef Miller. Now hear from those that are in opposition to this item. I'd like to invite forward Michael Brando, Mark, Michael Schwartz, and Consuelo. If I've called your name, please come forward.
Consuelo, I'm actually not in opposition. Love the message, don't take away the guns, just have them be safely stored. May this item not be a part of a bigger agenda, the plan to further their goal to entirely take away our protection. Because we learn from history that we have not learned from history. Just turn in your weapons and the government will take care of you, said no native ever. They used that line back then. Different time, same lie. As long as enough people can be frightened, then all people can be ruled in a democratic system, and mass fear becomes the ticket to destroy rights across the board. The fact that society doesn't quite grasp the fact that we have given a small group of people the right to kidnap, imprison, harass, steal from, and kill so that we can be protected from people who kidnap, harass, steal from, and kill us. Pay attention to what they say and what their actions are. They don't care about you or your safety. They only care about fulfilling an agenda, and that is the UN Agenda 2030. Look into it, please. For the love of your children, grandchildren, and future generations, start paying attention to what these selected, not elected politicians are really doing. It's not for the betterment of humanity. It's for total control. Their goal is for us to be entirely dependent and enslaved to their system. Again, pay close attention. Be on the lookout for more planned mass shootings. They create the chaos to fulfill their goals. Wake up, humanity. Keep your guns and keep them safe.
Next speaker, please. If I've called your name, please come forward.
Hi, my name is Michael Schwartz. I'm with San Diego County Gun Owners. We participated in the listening sessions. We participated in the feedback. We went to the presentation that showed the final results. And it became pretty clear that the results from this study do not present the epidemic or crisis that the political rhetoric from the anti-gun groups are trying to mislead you. It's an extremely safe county. It's very rare that you're going to die and a gun is involved. That doesn't mean that if someone dies and a gun's involved, it's not sad and tragic and we can't do a better job. We absolutely can. But staff over here said that you had no funding towards gun violence prevention, and that's simply not true. If you look at the results of the report, it says that 70% are suicide, 30% are basically career criminals. You guys have permanent funding for all of that. You fund law enforcement. You fund mental health. You know, you fund programs that prevent people from becoming gang members. We don't need more bureaucracy, and by labeling it with the gun violence prevention, gun owners are going to walk away from that. They're not going to walk away from helping people who are in a mental health crisis. They're not going to walk away from enforcing laws. But couching it this way is just going to make it more divisive. And you're already putting the resources towards the solution. So, if you look through the 204 pages, it clearly states that number one, we're doing a fairly good job. But number two, it's very specific the type of death where a gun is involved, gun violence. It gets down right into the neighborhoods. And all you have to do is support those neighborhoods, support those processes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Mark, it's obvious that young children that are untrained shouldn't have access to firearms, but that you guys are intentionally ignoring the problem, of course, because you do want to disarm people, as they've done in Europe, and now the people there are just screaming. They're burning police cars, and they just can't stop their tyrannical government. So when I was young, none of these problems existed. It was right after World War II and the Vietnam War, and everyone had tons of guns. There were fully automated guns, and I was totally safe, 5 years old. Girls were safe. We all walked to school. We weren't afraid of being kidnapped or ripped off. There were hardly any shootings. There were never any school shootings that I remember in my lifetime when I was young. This is caused because you're ignoring inflation. Your COVID policy destroyed 40% of the businesses intentionally, and which is the only way it could be, of course. And so if you're going to ignore inflation tripling our prices and that our dollar is practically worthless now, people's lives are shit. And if you're going to try and instigate programs to psychologically give them meds or make them feel better about having a poverty-stricken, crappy life, it's not going to work. Now some stats. Less than 0.1% of deaths from guns are non-serialized ghost guns. This is less than 1 out of 1,000. You've ignored the obvious fact that criminals do not obey your laws, which makes your entire premise absurd. Criminals have already purchased as many 3D printers as possible and will obviously continue to print as many 3D guns as they can with programs they have already backed up until the day they die. So your agenda will do absolutely nothing to stop violent gun deaths. It will, however, prevent law-abiding citizens, especially in the poor areas, who are afraid of you arresting them, from being able to protect themselves inexpensively and easily by printing ghost guns. You guys are totally unconstitutional, and your locks won't release quickly enough for people to...
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Michael, this is really an unspeakable topic, and of course, it's very sad about the people that have experienced loss because of this, but that does not excuse this incrementalism that's going on. Incrementalism. Government corporations aren't just going to come out and say, oh, we're going to change, things, or we're going to take away your rights. It has to be done gradually. And this whole nonsense of making guns safe is actually another way to get people involved in things that they have no business being involved in at all. I actually went to one of these listening sessions, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But listening to this thing, and of course, Tara's not listening to me right now. This is like listening to those ridiculous COVID updates from Wilma Wooten and Nick Macchione. It's filled with manipulation and nonsense, absolute nonsense. I got to speak with some people at the Chula Vista listening session, and of course that's not going to be in here, and it was very interesting to hear how so many people from different walks of life were very similar on the same page. We actually even talked about this shot, and they could actually make the correlation of how the whole nonsense of the counterfeit pandemic and this shot affected the mental health of people. Families, friends, just destroying society, which is part and parcel of groups that want to take over and control other people's lives. So on this particular item, no, absolutely not, even though I know it's already pre-selected and you'll go on to do your contracts and all of that, because that's just the way the patterns go.
Thank you. We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll start with our first caller.
Paul, there are some good and some long overdue recommendations. I'm glad they include communication. This is your best bet to mitigate the gun violence problem. But the equity stuff is divisive and old, and people are being turned off, not buying it. Equity means fairness. You won't get equity by focusing on certain groups or zip codes. If you want to be truly equitable and fair, you need to focus on the individual. A death is a death, and any death by guns in any number is a tragedy, whether in Black, Latino, Asian, Indigenous, or Caucasian community. So I hope we're over this nonsense equity thinking. And it's a disservice to focus educational content on just high-risk populations, particularly since it contains such items as mental health and suicide prevention, which can happen anywhere, even if gun and other violence is mostly in certain areas. And attendance in such events is often based on family and work considerations, so the exact location of these events usually does not really matter. The county should identify organizations that operate violence intervention programs all over the county, not just in the upper and lower corners. And people in the East County have a hard time getting service. So this is kind of discriminatory. I don't know why HHSA should be involved either. Not sure why county employees need special training. Why not cancel this and save a buck or 150 thou. And I hope that the community forum.
We'll now hear from the next caller.
Hello, my name is Ethan Murray, and I am a senior district representative for Senator Catherine Blakespeare. Senator Blakespeare would like to commend the board for its community-centered approach in soliciting the HARC report, and she hopes to serve as a resource in the hard work that comes next, implementation. Implementation of policies addressing questions that arise from the report, like why is our unlocked gun storage rate not lower than the state average? Questions made real by tragedies like a 3-year-old shooting their own 1-year-old sibling, as we learned today. questions made real by the over 2,500 youth that died by firearm across the country. That's 35 school buses full are youth. The report's twin recommendations of gun law distribution and developing a suicide screening tool, perhaps even one targeted for seniors, because of the elder firearm suicide rate increase cited in the report, seem a solid start. From her past work on ghost guns as a mayor to her current microstamping and gun safety signage bills, Senator Blakespear has proven herself a strong partner on this issue and would like to continue to be a strong partner for the board. Please reach out to our office, and we will do our best to see how we can help with state funding and other resources. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Who cares what Blakespear thinks? This is truth with a smoking gun of a mouth and many victims to my name. Thanks for the legitimate transparency earlier, Nora. Snapping fingers for you. There we go. All right, on July 11th at the La Mesa City Council, I already got to hear that there have been a total of 0 deaths by firearms in the city of La Mesa for over 1 year, including without unenforceable storage lockers, Tara. That's the real fact. But these supervisors don't like real stats. They want data-driven deception. So they hired Health Assessment and Research for Communities, Inc. to provide a 205-page report that nobody's read. This report was supposed to justify where the county money will go in the future as fraudulent fuel to the biased narrative against the Second Amendment at future meetings. But it seems that things have ironically backfired. But first, let me point out how this report says that 84.2% of people don't keep firearms in their homes. The reality is nobody in their right mind would tell a survey taker what weapons they own in this tyrannical state. And children were asked if they're worried about being shot. What bad parents allowed that traumatic exploitation for a survey? Despite that, there were seemingly accurate facts about how there are likely underreported defensive gun use scenarios, which includes homeowners stopping a home invasion, a store clerk stopping a robbery, or someone stopping an assault or rape. And the report found that in the news, the majority of deaths by firearms were said to be homicide, the complete inversion of reality. From the report, quote, despite what is reported in the media, most firearm-related deaths are suicide, 70.9%, end quote. Most people that are dying by firearms are the ones that want to die. It's the complete opposite of Nora's misinformation. I think it's all pretty evident.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning. My name is Jefuke Rodriguez. I'm the Chief Equity Officer and Strategist for the Hope and Heal Fund. I'm also a member of the Advisory Committee. I simply want to state that it's important to put into context this report because it is a part of a larger phase strategy. And to point out the intent of what this assessment was set out to do, which was really to identify gun deaths in terms of firearms, gun deaths by type, but also by geography. So while some folks stated that certainly San Diego is one of the safest counties, certainly that's not the case if you live in a particular concentrated geography specifically impacted by homicides. In those cases, you will find that the average in terms of homicides there would be 5 or 10 times higher than the state average, so that's important to contextualize. It's also important to point out that the intent of this was to begin to establish strategies and focus geography in terms of resources to address either suicides or homicides in particular communities. The next phases that are supposed to help inform is really how you accurately and surgically kind of invest in those communities and the types of interventions that are needed to address the issue, be it a homicide or a suicide. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. And primeramente, nomás quiero agradecer a todas las personas que nos acompañaron y toda la información que proveyeron ahora. Específicamente quiero dar los comentarios en español porque la violencia con armas de fuego es una tragedia cotidiana que afecta a las vidas de las personas, especialmente en nuestras comunidades. Así que quiero agradecer al Departamento de Seguridad Pública y al Grupo Asesor por la Reducción de Violencia Armada y por enfocarse en buscar maneras, ¿verdad? Porque es importante enfatizar que este reporte no elimina las armas de fuego. Lo que hace es enfocarnos en educación sobre seguridad de estas armas, y creo que tenemos la obligación, creo que es una responsabilidad de nosotros establecer medidas de intervención a nivel comunitario para reducir y prevenir la violencia armada. So with that, we have, I think we've heard today from a lot of different folks, and we've also received a lot of comments via email, right, that gun violence affects everyone regardless of gender, age, racial, ethnic background. And I appreciate all of the folks that were able to join us today to give their testimony. And, you know, I really do believe that we all play a part in ensuring that we have safe and livable communities, and that includes making sure that young men can live without fear of gun violence, where women can live without fear of experiencing intimate partner violence, where we avoid unintentional harm by educating the public on gun safety, and where people can have access to mental health resources that they need to support the recovery. And so, you know, I think it was mentioned today that we fairly do a good job. To me, that's just not enough. And if we have the power to ensure that we have education and that we can bring people together so that we are together moving forward, it's something that absolutely I'm happy to support. And I appreciate the comment of, you know, don't take anyone's guns away, just make them safe. I think that's exactly what this report is recommending in ensuring that we're coordinating these efforts. So I'm proud to second the motion. Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the comments and all the speakers, particularly those who have had a loss to someone or a loved one, and I appreciate your courage in stepping forward and on this item. You know, as I read this report, what I really found out and what came out to me is we're dealing with a mental health crisis. That's absolutely, I think, where the focus needs to be. A safely stored gun is not violent. It's estimated that 1 in 5 adults in the United States now live with mental illness. In April, the Union Tribune reported that the rate at which adults are placed now on 72-hour mental holds has almost doubled. For kids, the number has increased nearly tenfold. Mental health calls for service to law enforcement have spiked in more than 120% since 2009. And what really struck me in this document, and I think, and it was mentioned in the presentation and mentioned several times, that over the last 5 years, from 2017 to 2022, more than 70% of the gun-related deaths in this county were self-inflicted by suicide. 70%, and that doesn't get reported out, primarily maybe for privacy reasons, but 70% of the gun-related deaths are suicide. So what happened right before those people chose to take their lives? They had a mental health crisis. That's what they had, is a mental health crisis. So I want to make sure that we are focusing on mental health and not necessarily taking away people's guns. I've heard it mentioned, but I really appreciate people coming forward on this, but I think our eye is off the ball. Even in the presentation, it said mental health was one of the #1 things that we need to focus on. And the focus groups even said mental health. And there's horrific crimes have been carried out there. We all cringe when we hear about these mass shootings at schools and things like that. Most of those are carried out by mentally ill people. So I don't want to belittle these crimes, but I think in order to diminish those horrific crimes, just like homelessness, it's a mental health issue, and so is gun violence, is mental health issues, and that's what we really need to focus on. And clearly, children should not have access to loaded guns. But the state has emptied out their jails and the mental health hospitals, and these offenders, unfortunately, have flooded our local streets and its institution and given us more and more mental health cases. On May 23, 2023, the board approved an action to take stock of the county's current suicide prevention efforts, which I applaud them for, and my board for supporting. It hopefully identified gaps in efforts in suicide prevention. I think a mental health-centered approach is necessary to combat these complex issues, not guns. It's mental health that we have to, is what I really think we have to put our focus on. The report is fine. Great job on the report, but the recommendations to me do not go far enough in treating mental health. Matter of fact, and when I looked through the recommendations, not one of them mentioned mental health. They had behavioral health in there, and maybe that encompasses things. But there's a lot of, advisory groups, town halls, listening session, roundtables, pamphlets, okay. But I really think mental health needs to be the focus. And I would like to keep the county focused on mental health and safe storage to save lives. Thanks.
Also focus on who creates the behavior of mental health. It's the government that is your third warning. And so please go ahead and be removed from you can leave the chambers now. Okay, you guys who create the mental health. So third warning, is there any other, if there's no other comments, please vote. Can you clerk call the vote, and then while she leaves the chambers.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson?
No.
Supervisor Desmond?
No.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer?
Aye.
Chairwoman Vargas?
Yes.
Chairwoman Vargas with Supervisor Anderson and Supervisor Desmond voting no. That's a tie vote. That motion fails. Pursuant to your rules of procedure, the board may continue the item for consideration at a future meeting.
Sir, that's your second warning. And we will be taking a lunch recess, and we will be back at 12:45.